Oh yeah, Chris Rock is a thing. Spiral is another story in the apparent never-ending Saw franchise that ended 3 different ways 4 films ago. The story of Coyle centers on a tall Kevin Hart. He is an idealistic detective and son of the former police chief Samuel motherfucking Jackson. Rock is brought to the task when a Jigsaw copycat sets one of his fellow detectives to play chicken with a subway train. With the precinct targeted for the sins of past corruption, Rock is in a race against time to discover who is behind these killings while trying to protect those around him. Not all is as it seems, as we learn that almost literally every detective on the force has it out for not Chris Tucker, pushing him to his intellectual and moral limits. I'm not a real fan of this series, but if there's one thing Saw did get right, it was concepts. The original Jigsaw tried to make people understand life is precious and wasn't something to throw away. He pushed people to the extreme like a demented Jordan Peterson. I would like to play a bloody game. Copycats would twist this already macabre concept of preservation into retribution. Unfortunately, that was all the franchise had to offer, being driven into the ground like a skydiver without a parachute. This time, the franchise tries again, but steals more pages from the original playbook than the Patriots coaching staff. Tell me if you've seen this before. Some poor sap gets stuffed into a trap. Police are alerted to the situation. An investigation begins as victims are placed into more and more traps because they did something wrong in the killer's eyes. There is a mystery to learn the killer's identity with a twist that pretends you didn't see it coming. The killer is now known, but gets away anyway, and for some reason isn't hunted down like a fox. This is the ultimate failing of Spiral. Rock is a big fan of the series, even being established as executive producer and co-writer, but he basically made an inferior version of Saw 1. Rock has helped gather people to make this a valiant attempt, as the cast is good enough across the board, with only Samuel Jackson hamming it up. Although Rock himself may be the weak point, as he plays a disheartened detective well, like he downed a handful of benzodiazepam before each scene. Rock's acting isn't the only issue, though. The first Saw set people in traps reasonably, letting them wake up to the horror in a way that made sense, except for the sleeping underwater part. I'm unfamiliar with the series beyond the second film, so correct me if this happened before. Nonetheless, the first victim in particular is left standing with the only vertical support being the clamp around his tongue. How was that set up? Don't you think the dude would have fallen over, losing his tongue in the process and rendering the point of the trap sort of moot? Just a side note, I find the idea of Jigsaw and every other copycat finding out if chloroform does the trick or not before going after their first victim funny. I hope I put enough on here. Also, if you realize a target wasn't the whole precinct, but a specific member who was last known to be in the building, don't you think sprinting to her last known location relays urgency more than a brisk walk? Also, how the fuck do all these copycats have enough time to set up such elaborate traps in 5 minutes and/or without anyone noticing? Why hello, person who may or may not be the Spiral Killer. What are you doing with that 5-gallon bucket of boiling wax? This is exactly what it looks like. Here's $5 for you to look the other way. Swirly is a bit of a snorefest. We've been through this song and dance numerous times before. The traps are imaginative as ever, with emphasis on practical effects, which is always a plus, but the mystery isn't strong enough with a character written in that if you stare hard enough, you'll see how the filmmakers digitally removed his evil villain mustache like a Justice League reshoot. Will this spawn more sequels? I hope not. If it does, then the film might as well be titled Snooze, a bedtime story from the Book of NyQuil. Now, thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.